let's try to analyze this code and see what it'll output. So here we have a 3 by 3 array, and we have a loop, an outer loop, and an inner loop, right? So we know that this outer loop is going to execute 3 times. How do we know this? We see that I is equal to 0, and it's only going to execute provided I is less than 3, and it's going to be incremented by 1 each time. So the only way it's going to execute is for I is equal to 0, I is equal to 1, and I is equal to 2. Beyond that, it will stop executing as it will fail this condition. And we can see that each time the outer loop executes, the inner loop will execute as well. And the inner loop will only execute 3 times. So, because for the same reason, right? So, let's see what this will output. We have our indexes, I, j, and k, and they're all initialized to 0. You'll see soon that this j is not going to do much as it's not being incremented, so we don't have to worry about it too much, but we can still keep track of it as it's going to be printed out. All right, so for I is equal to 0, we are now in this loop. It passes the condition, and we're now in the inner loop. And for k is equal to 0, k is less than 3, right? 0 is less than 3, so we pass this condition as well, so we're going to print out a value. What are we going to print out? We're going to print out a 0, 0, 0, right? We're going to print out this value because we're going to just put in those zeros for I, j, and k. And what does this value correspond to in the array? Well, this corresponds to 1 right here, right? Because it's the 0th element, and it's the 0th, well, rather, it's the 0th array, as in the first array, and it's the 0th element in that array, so it's the first one, which is 1. So we're going to end up printing 1. Now, k is going to get incremented by 1, so now k is equal to 1, right? Because at the end of the for loop, this makes sure that k is incremented, and we're going to go to the start again. Is k less than 3? Well, 1 is less than 3, right? So we're going to print again, except this time we're going to print a 0, 0, 1. You can probably start to see the pattern here. And that corresponds to 2, right? Because we're still in the 0th, we're still in the first array, but now we're on the second element. So it's going to print 2. And you can probably predict that the next time it's going to print 3, right? Because you're going to increment k to 2, and we're still less than 3, so the loop is still going to execute, and we're going to end up printing the value that comes right after, which is 3. And now you can quickly see that this is just going to happen for every row here, right? Because what's going to happen now is now we've finished the inner loop, it's going to jump right back up to the outer loop, and since we've now finished, oh, by the way, it's going to print like a new line. That's what this line is doing. So for each time the outer loop executes, it's going to print a new line. So that was good. That's important to note. So it's not going to keep printing stuff on this line, is what I mean. So now we're on the next line. We finished the inner loop, the first, or rather, we finished the first iteration of the outer loop, which was the inner loop. Now we're going to jump back up to here, and I is going to be 1, right? Which is still less than 3, so the outer loop is going to execute again. And as you might expect, now we're going to print, when we get to the inner loop, where k now resets, right? This is now back to 0, right? Because the inner loop will reset the counter when it executes again. But this time we're not printing 0, 0, 0 to start. We're printing 0, or rather, sorry, we're printing 1, 0, 0, right? So now we're on this row, and it's going to follow the exact same procedure as last time, except now it's going to print the first 3 here. And then it's going to jump back to the original loop, and now I is going to be 2. And this is the last time the loop is going to execute, because 2 is less than 3. The next time it's going to fail. And we can just predict it. We don't even have to go through it now. We can just know it's going to be this one now. 19, 20, 21. It's these first 3 numbers.